Good day to the viewing and listening public. I am Stacey Carmichael and this is the Progress Report. Today we're joined by Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Zulfikar Mustapha. Minister Mustapha, it's a pleasure having you on Progress Report.
Thank you, and let me thank you first of all for inviting me on your program.
You're welcome, Minister. It's always a pleasure. Now, Minister, since taking office in August, you've been very proactive. You've been out meeting with farmers, other residents, getting their concerns and their inputs. What can you say are some of the major achievements of your ministry thus far?
So far, let me say that when I took over this portfolio, the Ministry of Agriculture, what I found there were workers who are willing to work, officers who are willing to work. But at that time, the ministry lacked leadership. I don't think that they had proper leadership at the ministry. So the officers, they were working and they thought what was good or what was correct, that they will work in that field. So it seems that the ministry didn't have a vision or an objective to work towards. So we got into government, and you know that we have to deliver on our manifesto promises, all those promises that we have made. Now, in the agriculture sector, there are a number of commitments and promises that we have made in our manifesto. And we would have started, I went in there with a view that we will start to work immediately on these promises that we have made in pre-election. But what I found was very disheartening. What I found a ministry that did not have the capacity to produce, so to speak, to deliver. And I had to get down to the task immediately to do basic things. Many established farming communities, many established areas that we consider to be areas that are productive, were lacking basic infrastructure. And my first and immediate task was to go to Cabinet to request funding for critical works in these areas. For example, the MMA scheme. We know for a fact that that is the largest rice growing area in our country. But when you look at the scheme, the status there, almost all the canals were blocked. The structures, the DNI structure, were dilapidated, and the dams were impossible. I had to go to Cabinet to request funds, emergency funds, and as a result of that, $90 million were expended and approved by Cabinet, and we had to do a number of canals in that scheme, agriculture scheme. Today, if you go in that scheme, within 3 months, you could see and observe that almost all the canals are clean. The canals are clean. We have expended a sum of almost $15 million to do the dams, and in this year's emergency budget, we are doing critical DNI structure. That is only one area in the country. But when you go around the entire country, as you rightly said, I have been visiting a number of areas across the country. And there are demands. People want to go back to agriculture. Before August, when we did not have a change in government, many persons were talking or were relying on island gas. Every time we talk about development, they say they're waiting on island gas. I am extremely happy and heartened to know now when I go around in the country, people are saying that they want to get back into agriculture because there is a renewed hope, renewed interest in the agriculture sector because of the works that we have accomplished over the last 3 to 4 months. And the achievement to date is phenomenal for this short period because areas that farmers consider to be areas that were abandoned, we start to clear canal, we start to take machine into those areas, and those areas once again become productive. I went to the Essequibo coast, and paddy bugs were damaging paddy in the Essequibo there. Immediately, I sent the GRDB extension team to work with the farmers on the Essequibo coast. In the interior, the Akushi ants bait that was abandoned by the previous administration, I have restarted that program. Now we are supplying these baits free of cost to farmers in the interior location so that they can control the Akushi ants. We have restarted the seed program where the Ministry of Agriculture through NARI is giving out these seeds to farmers across the country. We have desilted a number of canals, a number of outfalls. And what we have done also, we have placed additional pumps. As I'm speaking here now, technicians from India are in the country setting these new pumps, nine new pumps across the country in area like on the Essequibo coast, on the east coast of Demerara and in Berbice. They are working there to fix these pumps so that our capacity will boost, will increase our capacity. We have placed three new pumps in Georgetown to complement the pumping system and the drainage system in Georgetown so that we can try to take care of the flooding situation in Georgetown. So for me as Minister of Agriculture for the last 4 months, it was very hectic, but I am satisfied to date with the progress we have made in this short period of time. As a result of that, we have seen increase in production in a number of areas, and especially in other crops. In other crops, we have seen farmers now, they are producing more, and also we are working with farmers to get market for their produce. And I will explain a little later on in the program what work we are doing with these farmers. To date, our rice production have increased from last year, last crop, or last year to now. We have produced over 1 million metric ton of rice to date, and I am foreseeing for the next crop that production will increase tremendously. So our country agriculture sector is about to take off. And as I said, the stakeholders, they are now willing to come back on board. We are seeing new investment. People are coming in the country. Foreign investors are coming in the country. I've had a number of discussions with investors, overseas investors, and also local investors. We are seeing interest from the diaspora. People wants to come back to live in Guyana to start farming. So all those things we are seeing and witnessing, I think the agriculture sector now will be one of the most critical and important sector in our country. What I have also done over the last 4 months, I have had 2 or 3 meetings with my counterparts across the Caribbean. And what I have noticed that Guyana had lost its position in terms of the spokesperson on agriculture in the Caribbean. We normally speak on agriculture, you know that. We have had the Jagdeo's initiative, the initiative that was developed by former President Jagdeo, and that was adopted by CARICOM. Now we are trying to get back there because not so long ago we had the FAO had a conference for Caribbean and Latin America, and our ambassador to the United Nations, she was very elated when she called me and said that she understood that Guyana did one of the better presentation in the Caribbean. So we are getting back there, and I think that as I said, that the achievement so far, this is only a short period, and we have achieved so much. I think in the next in the years to come, the agriculture sector will be back to the place we once had it.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now, just going a little bit into the interventions that you've made in various communities. You visited Nabaklis, Buxton, and even recently Linden in Region 10. Could you tell us what were some of the issues that were raised by the farmers, and what are the more long-term plans for future investment in these communities?
So what we had, first of all, it seems that these problems were experienced across the country, not only in Buxton, Belladrum, Nabakalis, or Linden. But if you go, it seems that the previous administration, they neglected the entire country, so to speak, because you go to Krabu Creek, you hear the same problem. You went to Port Moran, you heard the same problem, and like that. You went to Belladrum, drainage and irrigation. Drainage and irrigation. I want to say that our farmers, they are determined because they were planting in severe, extremely bad conditions. Some of them were using pump to pump water into their field and things like that. So the main issue or the main concern were DNI, drainage and irrigation. And what I have done as minister, I have instructed our staff from NDIA to visit these areas and work a plan with the farmers. So we had stakeholders buy in, and we work along with them. For example, in Buxton now, only 2 days ago, on my last open day, public day, last Friday, the farmers group from Buxton came to the ministry, and they were in high praise for the work that were done there. So, and we'll continue. And what I plan to do, because we have these canals to do manual maintenance after we have done mechanical cleaning of it. So I plan to engage these groups. These groups will be the beneficiary, and they will also help to maintain the canal where NDI will contract them to do this maintenance. Because they are the beneficiary and they will ensure that these canals are clean. Sometimes you spend you expend a lot of funds, and when you go, these canals are not clean up to standard. That is why I was not too happy when the former government took away these canals from the region. You know, in Blackbush Polder, in 5274, in Cane Grove, those canals were taken away from the region and came under the NDIA centrally. They were responsible. So the stakeholders, them who were using these canals, the beneficiary, them who were using these canals, they were not getting the chance to clean the canals. So what I have done, I have since instructed that these canals go back to the Water Users Association. So they are the beneficiary and they will ensure that these canals clean and we will have value for our money. So I'm going around in all these areas. In Linden, I went last Tuesday, the same problem. West Watuka, they don't have drainage. In Bamia, the same issue. So what I have done, I have extended the fleet of machine that we have in these areas, and the works are going on. Yesterday, I saw a press release came out from our department where some of the canals in Linden now are now clean for the first time. In Buxton, although they had a special project for Buxton, a number of canals there were not clean for years. Now we have cleaned those canals. The same thing, I went to Belladrum. Belladrum, they had canals there, farmers were unable to go to plant, right? Because they don't have irrigation water. I went, I sent in the machine, and the machine cleared a number of canals in Belladrum. And things like that. I went to the islands in the Essequibo River, the same issues farmers had, drainage and irrigation. So I am now developing through the NDI a comprehensive plan around the country so that we will be procuring in this budget some additional machinery, and also over the next few years we'll have more machinery to our fleet. So I am expecting to place machinery in different points in the country, and these machinery must be responsive to the needs of the farmers. And I plan also to set up management committees with the farmers group and the NDIA so that we can have jointly monitoring of these machines. Because over the years we have had a number of allegations being made that fuel are being stolen and operators are not working and things like that. So I intend to work along with the Water Users Association. I intend to work along with other farmers group. I intend to work along with the Rice Producers Association to form teams to monitor these machines so that we can have value for our machine and value for our money in these areas. So that's the way we plan to do. But the intervention I have made, I think that the farmers, they are extremely happy. And over the next few years, we will see an increase in production and productivity.
Thank you very much, Minister Mustapha. Now, earlier today, you addressed Guy Suku's award ceremony for long-standing service. You spoke about re-energizing the sugar industry. What does this plan entail?
So first of all, you know, Guy Suku, when we went to the election, we said that we'll reopen the closed sugar estate. Now, what I found out also when I assumed this role as Minister of Agriculture, the present existing estates need critical capital investment. Those estates were working by, I think, about 60% capacity. Highflot, Blairmont, and Albion. So in the first instance, the first request I had from Gaisuko was there was no money to pay wages and salary when I took over here. I went to cabinet and again $600 million was released to pay wages and salary. Then in the budget, in the emergency budget that we had, $3 billion were made available to reopen these estates and also do critical work, capital works in the existing estate. Presently, those works will be going on because the estates now will be out of, these factories will be out of crop and they'll do rehab work in the factories. But as I am speaking here, works are going on in the three estates that we plan to reopen, and more, Rosal and Skeldon. Works are going on there to reopen those estates. But when I say we want to recapitalize and revitalize Gaisuko, I means that we cannot continue to produce raw brown sugar and expect Gaisuko to survive. Now is the time we have to go into other forms of production. We have to go in other value added production. For example, in the Caribbean, we can tap into the Caribbean market where there are need for over 200 tons of refined sugar. We plan to do that. We plan to diversify. We plan to ensure that we go to value-added product, and we also plan to develop our other industries around the sugar industry. So sugar is there. Sugar, yes, in 20 years ago you could have produced brown sugar, but you know those now we have to go into value-added because brown sugar don't have the price. We have had the 36% cut from the EU. Since that, our sugar industry have gone into crisis, and then it was compounded over the last 5 years because of the work that we did. Let me be very frank, and this sugar industry need a whole hour to talk about it. Um, when we got out of government in 2015, the previous government would have had an increase in production at Skeldon, especially at Skeldon, because you know they were criticizing the Skeldon factory. So they were in government and said that they have turned around the sugar industry. But the high production at Skeldon came about because of the work we did when we were in government. They reaped the benefit. But over the last 2 years after that, they allow Skeldon to deteriorate. And Skeldon deteriorated so much so they had to close Skeldon. Same thing with Rose Hall and more. Wales was closed before that. So when these estates were closed, they said that they will concentrate production in the three other estates. They didn't use the word of closure. They want to right size Gaisuko. That was the word used by the previous administration. They want to right size Gaisuko. But we have seen a decline of production from 145,000 tons right down to 92,000 tons in 2019 because the field was not serviced. They didn't put money in the field. There were no fertilizers to fertilize the cane. The canals were in a bad state. Critical structures in the field, DNI structure were dilapidated. The factories were not performing because they were not doing critical work in the factory. And because of that, production was at all-time low. Last year, Gaisuko produced 92,000 tons. This year, they are presently about 88,000 tons. And this year might be the lowest production ever in the history of Gaisuko. Why is that so? That is so because the previous government, they have not spent any money to revitalize Gaisuko. We have had a commission of inquiry into the affairs of Gaisuko. The commission came out and said that the government must not close any sugar estate. The government must not close, they must work in another 3 to 4 years to divest the sugar industry so that you can have private buyer to buy these industry. They say already okay that the commission of inquiry they will not listen to that. They close these estates. When we were in opposition, we asked the previous government. We said before you close these estates, you have to do an economic impact study to see what will be the problem. They did not do that. And we have seen the social problems in the areas that those estate touches. Places like Rosal Kanji, places like Enmore, places like Skeldon. We have seen a number of problems have started to exist in those areas. For example, and when we talk about Gaisuko, we must not only talk about sugar. Sugar is, yes, the primary activity of Gaisuko, but there are other activities that Gaisuko doing in the communities. For example, nobody pays Gaisuko for their DNI services. Nobody pays Gaisuko for the primary health care. Nobody pays Gaisuko for the welfare services like recreational activities and things like that, the community centers and so. So Gaisuko, we have to look at Gaisuko beyond sugar. Gaisuko is our culture. Gaisuko, we have to maintain and continue to improve Gaisuko. But the point is that we have to ensure that, as you rightly said, and you said that I said today at the presentation, that we have to recapitalize and we have to go into value-added production. We have to go into ethanol production. We have to go to refined sugar. We have to go to high-grade molasses. We have to go to the cogen that exit at Skelton so that we can supply power to the national grid and things like that. Those are the diversify we have been talking about. And if we go into that way, I think Gaisuku will survive, and there is a great future for Gaisuku. We can, as I said, that right here in Guyana, our manufacturing sector need refined sugar, right? We can tap right in the Guyana's market. We can tap right in the Caribbean market, and then you have there are other areas that we can go in North America and other places. So I think that with the management structure now of Gaisuko board, we have a good board there now. The board is working, and we'll continue to support Gaisuko because Gaisuko is the single largest employer of person in our country. And I think that the former Minister of Home Affairs, Mr. Ramjatan, when he talking about we putting money in industry and he tried to racialize or put it in on a racial footing. I think the RC should charge him because Gaisuko is an area now when you go to Gaisuko, and I invite the press and anyone to visit any of the estate of Gaisuko, and they will see almost it's balanced out where you have Afro and Indo-Guyanese working. And this thing is not about race anymore. This thing is about the ensure that you provide jobs for people and also you improve the economy. Gaisuko is the largest or was the largest single foreign exchange earner for our country. Gaisuko was the largest employer of person in our country. Gaisuko normally provide other services. I just mentioned a number of services that Gaisuko provide. So Gaisuko is beyond sugar. And if it was racial to put money in Gaisuko now, it was racial to close Gaisuko when they closed those sugar estates. Right? But these guys, you can't trust them because they're coming up with all kind of things. That is why they are in opposition today, because of their policies towards the country's workforce. Right? So I am not surprised with when they make these kinds of statements. But as I said, for Gaisuko to survive, we have to move in a different way. We can't work in the same old way that Gaisuko used to work. Management have to be more responsive. I have made that pronouncement there today at the award ceremony. Gaisuko management structure will have to change. They will have to be more proactive. They will have to visit the field. They will have to ensure that critical works are done in the field. Canes are not grown in the estate, in the office. They have to get in the field and ensure that all the necessary activities are carried out so that we can have proper growth of cane, we can have better yields per hectares, and we can have more cane, more sugar when we crush these canes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Minister. Now, permit me to ask your larger vision for the agriculture sector. What are some of the things you foresee, this sector doing?
Well, first of all, this sector, the agriculture sector, when I started out just now, I said this is one of the most critical sectors. And for me, it's the most important sector in our country. It's a sector that can create a lot of wealth. It's a sector that can create a lot of employment. The agriculture sector will be the sector to create or generate the most employment in our country. And the more importantly is a sector that we have to ensure that we develop to get food security in our country. Now, what I am looking at, we are developing, in the process of developing a strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan. Hopefully, before the end of the year, we can present that plan. Mm-hmm. But we are looking at the traditional and the non-traditional sectors. For example, we want to double rice production in another 5 years. That means with 1 million tons that we produce, or just over 1 million tons that we produce, or 1.1 million tons that we produce this crop, we want in another 5 years, hopefully we can produce 2.2 million tons. That means we'll have more farmers, that means we'll have more people in the rice sector, and that means we have to find more markets for our rice. As I am speaking here, and I want to just mention it, by the way, that I am now in serious discussion with the Panamanian Authority. ICA is helping us out to get contact to raise this issue. You know for a fact that Panama, they owe the Guyanese rice miller $1.9 billion. And with the interest that will go to close to $2.2 billion. So hopefully we can recoup that money shortly. The previous administration did not do anything. Since I have taken up this portfolio, I have written to the Ministry of Agriculture in Panama. I have had the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have dispatched letter to the ministry in Panama, and His Excellency, he has get involved too, and we are about to get payment, receive payment. They have acknowledged their indebtedness to the Guyanese rice miller, and they have acknowledged also that they will abide with the terms of the contracts, and also they want to continue with the contract that we had there. But we want to receive payment first before we can continue. But there are markets, we are aggressively pursuing markets around the world. As a matter of fact, we have had this investment group that came from Dubai recently. I did 3 presentations to them. And this, and why I am mentioning these are some of the vision that we have. As I said, we want to increase rice production. We want to do value added in the sugar production. We want to increase non-traditional crop, and we are giving incentive for them. We want large scale investment, where we will give out these lands in the intermediate savannas to plant soya and corn. Every year we import close to not close 25 million US dollar and more in corn alone for our poultry industry. So we are giving incentive. We have a large scale farmer doing some farming with corn now at the Bini Savannah, and that production will increase over the year. We want also the other crops to improve those other crops. What we are doing now too, we are doing more smart agriculture, so to speak, in terms of doing more shade houses, because in this year's emergency budget, we had budgeted and we get approval to spend $15.8 million to buy shade house material, so that we will sell it at a minimal cost to farmers and create a revolving fund so that we can continue to get these materials for them. NARI, our extension service, we have strengthened that arm of the NARI. They are going around and they are helping farmers now to do these shade house material. I am also looking aggressively to help the farmers with markets for their produce. You know, many farmers, when they produce, they don't have market. So what I have done, we are on the verge of revamping the new GMC, the policy there. I will be having serious discussion with my colleague ministers in the other ministries, like the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Health, so that we can purchase these produce from farmers and supply it to the prisons, supply it to the health sector, you know, that the needs. And also we are looking at the Caribbean market. Over the years, the Caribbean have been importing between 8 to 10 billion US dollar annually in agriculture produce. I am looking, and I will be employing a specialist next year in my office to look at markets in the Caribbean for these small farmers. I think there are great potential for us to tap into the Caribbean markets. Already many of our small producers, many of our agro processors, through the new GMC, they are exporting their produce in the Caribbean. I want that to continue so that we can find market for these farmers, so that they will not, at the end of it, when they produce, throw away some of the produce. You understand? Because many of our farmers now, when they produce, they are not getting market and they are not getting value for their produce. So I want that to ensure that we be more responsive. So that we are working that at that front. Also, I am looking at the fishing industry. There are great potential in the fishing industry. As you have heard, that His Excellency said that we'll very shortly have an aquaculture conference to discuss the improvement of the aquaculture industry in our country. Besides that, I have been working with the various fishing agencies around the country, the cooperative societies, and I think that over the last few months, we have seen an increase of activity in this area. As a matter of fact, I am now in discussion with Suriname also, because you know many fisher folks on the quarantine, they normally get these problems or encounter these problems when they fish in the Quarantine River and that parts of the Atlantic Ocean. So I'm in discussion with the Minister of Agriculture in Suriname and to have our fishermen licensed directly from Suriname so that they can ply their route, their trade in the Quarantine River and that parts of the Atlantic Ocean. So generally, I think we are focusing to improve the sector. We are focusing to improve all the sectors in the country. I am looking at the Guyana School of Agriculture. I am looking at the curriculum they have there to change it to be more to suit the needs of our country. I am planning to move a branch of the Guyana School of Agriculture to Berbice so that those people living in Berbice can have a chance to go to the school there. Already, the board, the new board, they have started to explore that possibility, and hopefully in the new year, we can have a branch of the Guyana School of Agriculture on the quarantine. So there are a number of persons there in other parts of the country I will be looking at. The NDIA, as you know for a fact, the NDIA is a very critical agency, and I am looking to ensure that we build capacity there, and we have more. I have brought back some engineer who had a lot of experience, who have worked in the 2005 with that big flood that we had and those structures that we have. I have brought back some of those engineers who are working back at the NDIA there. So all in all, I think the agencies in the Ministry of Agriculture, they will be more responsive. They will ensure that we build capacity, and we will ensure that we give that kind of leadership to the country's stakeholder, to the farming community, so that we can develop our agriculture sector and eventually have food security.
Thank you, Minister. Now, as we prepare to wrap up the program, quickly, I would ask the ministry's work plan for 2021. We know this is you just mentioned your longer term vision. What are some of the immediate plans?
So the immediate plan, we are speaking here now, we are compiling our programs for next year to submit to the Ministry of Finance. And as I said, that there were a number of requests from farmers around the country to do critical works, and my outreach is around the country. So D&I will be our number one priority to ensure that we do a lot of projects in the D&I. I have also tasked the new board of the MMA to look at the start the second phase of the MMA scheme so that we can open up more lands for farmers. We are looking at the livestock industry to improve the livestock industry. And when I say improve, the GLDA now, they are going around the country meeting with farmers to improve capacity and improve training among farmers. And also I am working with the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission to get more land for the livestock industry. You know that we have a model farm at Ebini with livestock there, and I will be taking the press shortly, so I hope you come with me. But that there we want to open up more lands for farmers so that we can improve the cattle industry. We are looking at getting better facilities. For example, abattoirs. We want to make abattoirs in international standards so that we can export our meat, especially beef, to other parts of the world. And the Dubai team that came to Guyana, I did a presentation in our poultry sector, our and the goat industry, and also the rice sector. And I think that they are very interested, and they plan to come back to invest in this country. But right here in Guyana, our livestock farmer, they want to develop this sector. I have recently appointed a new board of director, and I have charged that board to work along with the officers of the GLDA to improve our livestock industry. So the short-term goal for us is to ensure that we continue the work that we have started over the last 4 months, that is drainage and irrigation, open up new lands for the farmers, ensure that farmers are serviced, our extension services around the country are responsive to the needs of the farmers so that we can give that kind of leadership to increase production, increase productivity. And also, one of the immediate tasks for next year is to ensure that we get those 3 estates back to operational standard so that they could start produce sugar at the end of next year or early 2022. As I am speaking here, as I said, a number of activities are going on around these estates, and I am very optimistic, as I said, that we have already employed close to about 800 workers already, and next year another 2,000 to 3,000 workers will be employed to complement the force that we have there, so that all of us can put our heads and hands together to ensure that we open this industry and bring it back to its former glory. We will also work to improve the present estates that we have, these tree grinding estates so that we can put much needed capital work in those estates so that we can make it more efficient to produce more sugar. So those are some of the short-term goals that we have to ensure that we continue to improve the agriculture sector. I will continue to intensify my outreaches around the country. As a matter of fact, that all the officers now, almost all the 17 agencies that falls within the Ministry of Agriculture, all those officers are going out with me on a regular basis. And people now are meeting them. They are now talking and listening to people's problem. So we have a more interactive way of dealing with people's issue, right? And we are more proactive now when the Ministry of Agriculture. I think that many persons have said that when we go out in the communities and we respond to the needs, sometimes some of them are surprised because we doing the thing fast now rather than they take a long time to get. Some of them never saw the previous minister in their community. So that is the way I plan to continue to work, and because this sector is a hands-on sector. It's a sector that you have to go out in the field. It's not in you sit down in the office and write letters or do things. You have to go out in the field, see for yourself firsthand what is taking place, and give leadership to all these issues. And I think over the last 4 months, I have enjoyed it a lot, and I plan to continue to intensify my outreaches around the country and work along with the farmers and ensure that we improve and increase production in our country.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now we've come to the end of our program. It was surely informative, and we look forward to another episode with you on Progress Report.
Thank you very much for having me, and I will be always available to come on your program.
Sure, no problem, Minister. And thank you to the viewing and listening public. I'm Stacey Carmichael. This has been the Progress Report. Goodbye for now.